Quick warning, this video is going to be political. This is to be expected when discussing Orwell, but I think it bears saying. This will be a political video, and if you aren't sure which way my politics lean right now, you are about to find out. I will try to keep my rage to a reasonable level, but this could get kinda ranty. So, you've been warned. Okay, so, ever since President Annoying Orange Von Grabby Hands came into office, there's been a lot of chatter about Orwell and 1984, and whether this or that is Orwellian. Amazon actually sold out of copies of 1984 for a few days after Kellyanne Conway said that falsehoods being spread by the administration were alternative facts. So, today I want to talk about 1984, what Orwellian actually means, and how Orwell explores the impact of language on thought and dissent with NewSpeak in his novel. And at the end, we will look at how these concepts do and don't apply to today's political climate. Eric Arthur Blair, better known by his pen name, George Orwell, was born June 25, 1903. He was an English novelist who was particularly concerned with social injustice, totalitarianism, and was an outspoken advocate in favor of democratic socialism. My kind of guy. His most famous works are his allegorical novella, Animal Farm, which follows the rise and corruption of Stalinist Russia as told through farm animals, and 1984, our focus for today. I want to give a quick shout out to another dystopian novel that I love, and that is often taught as a pair with 1984. Huxley's novel, Brave New World, is an amazing book that focuses on how a dystopian government will seek to control the populace through the cultivation of apathy. Through escapism and drugs, sex, and a carefully cultivated caste system, a totalitarian regime can carry on with little to no violence on its part simply because the citizens are too unaware to do anything about it. Huxley feared that the things we love will destroy us because we won't care enough to stop them. Orwell's warning of the future is far more brutal. The things we fear will destroy us because, when sufficiently powerful, they cannot be stopped. 1984 is a dystopian novel published in 1949 that explores the extreme totalitarian regime of Oceania, specifically the province of Airstrip 1, formerly Great Britain, and the protagonist, Winston Smith's failed attempt at breaking free of the government. The government is characterized by its hyper-surveillance, the dictator figure of Big Brother, the idea of thought crime, the 2 minutes of hate where party members must express their hatred of party enemies loudly and publicly every day, the repeated revision of history in the government's favor, and the repression, aggression, and anxiety that pervades such a political atmosphere. Many aspects of the novel are based on the totalitarian governments that Orwell was familiar with. The revision of history, for example, is a reference to Soviet Russia. There are many examples of people being seen clearly in official photographs of Soviet Russia and later being removed when they fell out of favor with Stalin. So what does Orwellian mean? It's not just a synonym for dictatorial or authoritarian, though you'll see people use it that way. Orwellian is meant to be more specific. Some characteristics of a situation or government that are Orwellian include extreme and persistent government surveillance, the emphasis on loyalty to the state above all else, even family, the advocation for doublethink, where citizens must accept obvious contradictions, like giving up liberties to achieve true freedom, state revision of history, the use of contradictory euphemisms to describe the function of an agency. The Ministry of Peace is responsible for the military and war, for example, and the manipulation of language for the purpose of controlling the people. And this brings me to NewSpeak and language. Within 1984, the government is working to create a new official state language, NewSpeak. The idea behind NewSpeak on the surface is fairly reasonable. English as a language is highly inefficient. We have many synonyms with many shades of connotation after all. So, on the surface, NewSpeak aims at eliminating all redundancy. You don't need the words phenomenal, wonderful, amazing, fantastic, and exceptional when just good will do. And on that same note, you don't need the words dreadful, terrible, horrible, awful, and horrendous when ungood will do. Want to show emphasis? Double ungood. Need even more emphasis? Double plus ungood. Simple. But the true purpose behind NewSpeak is far more sinister. The book says, don't you see that the whole aim of NewSpeak is to narrow the range of thought? In the end, we shall make thought crime literally impossible because there will be no words in which to express it. By controlling the way people talk, the government can control the way people think. It's impossible to dissent or rebel if the words you need to dissent or rebel don't exist. And while that sounds pretty far-fetched, there really is some evidence that language can shape the way we think. Russian speakers are faster to distinguish shades of blue than English speakers, for example. Traditionally, Japan didn't have separate words for blue and green, and didn't develop a distinction between the two colors until after World War II. Some Aboriginal languages in Australia don't have words for right or left. All directions are described in terms of north, south, east, and west. Many languages gender nouns, and this affects the way native speakers will describe those objects. If you were asked to describe a key, a masculine word in German and a feminine word in Spanish, the German speakers are more likely to use words like hard, jagged, or metal, while Spanish speakers are more likely to say golden, little, lovely, and shiny. The languages we speak seem to affect the way we see the world. Even on a more basic note, you can't identify with a group of people if there is no word to describe that group. The creation and definition of labels is important to community building. Create the word, make it possible to talk about that group. Even something as simple as pushing a certain phrase or alternative name can affect how people feel about something. The current rise in stories about people who love the Affordable Care Act but hate Obamacare, failing to realize they are the same thing, is evidence of that. Orwell uses this idea that language itself shapes the kind of thoughts we can have to suggest that if a government can control language, they can control the thoughts of the citizens, going beyond even the most aggressive propaganda, leaving citizens unable to rebel because no thought of rebellion is possible because no word for rebellion exists. Now, not everything that a politician does that you dislike is Orwellian. Trump's executive order about banning immigrants from predominantly Islamic countries and the Mexican border wall are awful, but not Orwellian. When Betsy goddamn Davis can stand in front of Congress and admit to not knowing a goddamn thing about public education, pedagogy, or current educational policy and still become the Secretary of Education, not particularly Orwellian. Definitely incompetent and terrifying and infuriating, not Orwellian. Millions of people losing their health care if the Affordable Care Act is gutted is heartless and evil, but not Orwellian. Trump having globe-spanning conflicts of interest when people made Jimmy Carter sell his goddamn peanut farm to be president, but apparently we're just gonna sit here and let Trump run his billion-dollar businesses because who the hell cares and where are his tax returns? Ridiculously hypocritical and infuriating, but not Orwellian. But thinking about putting an anti-vaxxer in charge of the Vaccine Safety Committee, that's pretty Orwellian. Insisting again and again that his inauguration crowds were huge and shouting down any evidence that says otherwise as fake news, and pressuring the Park Service to find photos that support his version of events, that's Orwellian. When people renaming neo-Nazis as the alt-right, that's kind of Orwellian. When the House Science Committee chairman says that people should get their facts from the administration and not the news, Orwellian. When Trump says that he has drained the swamp and gotten money out of politics, and his appointed cabinet is richer than 1/3 of America combined, that's some double plus ungood doublethink, and it makes me unbelly feel. 1984 is a bleak vision of the future, a future that suggests that resistance is futile if the government gains so much control that it can literally brainwash citizens. And here is where I'm going to get extra political. I know that the first 2 weeks and counting of spray tan make baby paws presidency have been alarming and stressful for many, myself included. But we are not Airstrip 1. We are not Oceania. We do not have Big Brother looming over us, ever vigilant for thought crime. We are in a frightening situation as a country right now, but we will persist if we stick together. We preserve the past. We fight for what is true. We resist propaganda and fear-mongering, revisionist history, and scapegoating. We can't allow ourselves to ever believe that 2 and 2 make 5 just because the party says so. We can't allow ourselves to fall into fatigue and complacency. We can do this. We can do this together. Call representatives, go to marches, speak out. Stay strong. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see y'all down in the comments. As always, if you've enjoyed listening to this queer millennial feminist with a BA in English, feel free to subscribe.